All right, welcome everybody. We're here with a small group from church. We had hoped that this would be bigger, but the email didn't get sent out as it was meant to be, and so I do apologize for that. But I trust that you will be able to get the information you need this way. And of course, if you have any comments or questions or anything, feel free to just get straight in touch with the office. There will be information about how to do that at the end of the session. So what I'm going to walk you through tonight, again, for those who are just joining us, this is being recorded, FYI. What I'm going to walk you through tonight is kind of a condensed version of some things that we had agreed upon at our church board. Also with some adjustments made for new guidelines that have been released from the province and the city. So this is an overview of what we'll be covering. We'll be covering how to register for the church service. We'll be covering some general things that always apply. We'll be going through our entry, seating, and exit procedures, things that pertain specifically to the worship service, guideline for children, and washroom procedures, and then we'll end up with a Q&A. Again, feel free to interrupt me at any point if I'm not making sense. All right, so the registration for this is going to be done through an online application called Eventbrite. It also lives on your phone. I will put this presentation in the chat here tonight so you can get the link there to the Eventbrite page to register for the meeting. The registration will open at 9 p.m. tonight, but going forward, it should open up, I would guess, on Sundays or something like that. This link will be available in other places as well, and this whole slide presentation will make available to the church so you can have the links. Eventbrite may offer you a ticket, either that you could print out or display on your phone. You don't need that. We just need your name. We need to know who's coming in advance. We don't want to have more than 150 people in the building so we can accomplish our distancing mandates. We will keep track, cross-check who is there on Sabbath morning so that if there is some kind of a transmission event or outbreak or whatever, we can aid with contact tracing. You will need to, as part of your pre-registration, agree to use the online Alberta Health Services COVID-19 self-assessment tool. There's a link to that. It basically walks you through a checklist to make sure you don't have symptoms, and you'll need to be cleared by that assessment tool before you attend worship on Sabbath morning. You should run through that on Sabbath morning before you go, not just for you, but for the whole family. And I want to make this little point here at the end that we are not overlooking our people who don't have access to the internet. They're being called and asked if they want to come, and they'll have a totally separate registration process. We're going to give them priority because, of course, they cannot watch our services online. Okay, so here's some pretty basic stuff. I hope you're practicing this already, but if you're not, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, on your previous slide, when you're using Eventbrite, can you, like, let's say a family is coming, can you register everybody at once, or
Yes.
does every person have to go in? Okay.
I think you can register up to 10 people at once. We just ask that you register your family. Yeah. Yeah, so you register but you'll have to create a different registration for each person. It should be fairly easy to accomplish. Good question. Okay, so if you're not feeling well or if you have COVID-19 symptoms, if you're told that you need a COVID-19 test because of your symptoms, or you're waiting for your results from such a test, because you had symptoms, if you're required to quarantine because you had close contact with someone who had COVID-19 or you traveled internationally, or if you're required to mandatory self-isolate because you do have COVID-19, you shouldn't be coming to church. And you really shouldn't be going anywhere. So just please don't come if that's the case with you. Any questions there? Pretty basic. All right. If you are part of a population with a greater risk, You are allowed to attend at your own discretion, but just realize that while the risk of contracting the disease may be relatively low, the consequences of getting the disease may be quite high for you. This includes people who are 65 years of age or older, have lung disease, have serious heart conditions, are immunocompromised, or cancer survivors, or have diabetes and obesity. Sorry, wrong slide there. Okay. So let's look at our general protocols then. The 2-meter distancing, I think most people are aware of and practice as much as they can. This includes not hugging, shaking hands, giving the fist bump, giving the elbow bump, foot tap, etc. We should not be touching each other in any way at church. We also should not be passing items between those who are not in our household, or if you formed a cohort group with another family, you shouldn't be doing that with people who are outside of your bubble, as it were. People talk about the bubble now, right? There's a new bylaw in Edmonton that takes effect August 1, which is Sabbath, that everyone who's indoors in a public place, this includes our church, must wear a face mask unless they're eating or drinking. There will be face masks provided if you cannot bring your own. However, I need to emphasize that we have a limited supply of those. And so you really should try to bring your own mask if at all possible. And it's important to try not to touch your mask or your face while you're in the building. I do realize that happens, so we can always sanitize if that's the case. You should not be eating in the building at all. Do that in your car if you need to. This includes young children. You should bring your own water with you because drinking fountains will not be available for use. That's a high touch surface. So bring water bottle if you want to have some water. I imagine it will be quite hot in the church building. So if you're wearing a mask, you can imagine that would get warm as well. You may want to dress for comfort more than for fashion, recognizing, of course, that it is church. And we will have sanitization stations at important places in the church. Take advantage of those, use them. They're for your good. Any question about those protocols? Good. Okay, moving along. The main thing here is keeping the traffic, the flow of traffic in the church going in the right directions. I would suggest that you plan to arrive 15 minutes before the start of the service. The service will start at 11:30 a.m. Sabbath school will end at 10:50 a.m. So that gives you 40 minutes to get over to church. Those who can arrive sooner should plan to arrive sooner so that we don't all arrive at once and have a big bottleneck. I would suggest you try to get there at least 15 minutes before the service because we will need to start at 10:30 sharp as it is being live streamed. You should try to leave one empty stall between vehicles if possible. I think there should be plenty of room for that on most days. We're not going to enter through the doors that we're used to entering. Usually we enter that door where you can go upstairs or downstairs, right? That split level door on the east side. Or we enter through those front doors that are glass. Instead, we're going to use the back door that you take the gate to get into. You know, the one that has the ramp and the steps and things. Okay, when you get into the building, and if there is a bottleneck, you'll need to maintain the 2-meter distancing in the lineup and all that. There will be an usher there to take your name and check you off against the attendance list. So just give the usher the names of everybody in your party. Everything should be propped open, so you shouldn't have to touch anything. And then when you get in the building, sanitize your hands. That's the first thing to do. Any questions about the entry procedure? Did I describe it clearly enough? Jane, it looks like you're trying to say something, but I can't hear you.
Okay, no, I was just clarifying the time. What was the time you're saying? We said people must arrive 15 minutes later, but we're starting at what time?
We're starting at 11:30, so I would suggest you plan to arrive by 11:15.
Okay.
If you have a drive and can't make it in that amount of time, due to when Sabbath school ends and things, I understand. But
so my question was, Sabbath school is starting at 11:15.
Sabbath school should be starting at 10 and going until 10:50.
Okay. So if people are coming for Sabbath school, then they've got to be there by 9:30 is what you're saying?
No, Sabbath school will be online.
Oh, online.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. I wasn't understanding that. Okay.
Yep, that's an important point to clarify. Thank you. Sabbath school will still be online. And so you'll need to finish up with online Sabbath school and then head in the car and drive to church.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Another question here. I
Yes.
don't know if it's later on your slides, but have you got any protocols around some of the high touch surfaces? So like usually we would pass out bulletins at the door. There's offering plates that go around.
That will be covered in a future slide. I'm going to be just like an evangelist and tell you that's coming up in the next, not the next meeting though, just in a slide. But yes, I'll get to that. So let's move along then to what happens when you get in the building. Again, maintain a 2-meter physical distance when you find your seats. What you should do is take the hallway to the north side of the building. So you're going to go in that back door on the south side, then walk all the way down the hallway around the library and all that to the north side, and just go right into the sanctuary through the glass doors. They should be open. Don't use the coat racks, please. The mothers or hang out in the foyer and talk or whatever. Don't do that either. The mother's room will not be available. Balcony seating will be available if we encounter a situation where we have to use overflow seating, but otherwise we will not use the balcony. When you get in the sanctuary, every other pew will be roped off. There will be some near the front that will be reserved for the team that's presenting the worship service. And there will be ushers to help you quickly locate a pew if that's needed, if we have a lot of people. But I think for our first Sabbath, there probably won't be a huge crowd coming. You'll need to maintain that 2-meter distance between your household or yourself and people who are not of your household as you sit. Pretty basic, pretty simple. Any questions there? Okay, then when the service is over, you're going to remain in your seats until the ushers dismiss you. This will help us maintain that 2-meter distancing again as we leave the building. You'll go to the front of the sanctuary and exit through the doors on the southeast corner that go back into that entry-exit area where you came in. But you'll use the other set of doors, the south doors, the one that go directly down into that south parking area to leave the building, okay? And when you get out there, just head straight to your car and get in, and then you can do whatever you wish or leave. But we want to encourage people not to remain in the parking lot and things like that. Okay, any questions about the exit procedure? Again, all the doors will be open for you, so it should be pretty obvious what's going on, all right? And if not, there'll be ushers to help you. Okay, coming back then to Chief's question. Some guidelines for how we're gonna work with the worship service. We're really encouraging online giving during this time because it is the safest way, if possible, to send money because we don't have to touch anything that somebody else touched. We're really discouraging the use of cash for donations. We ask you to avoid that if at all possible. If you want to give a check donation, we will have a designated place where you can drop your offering into like an offering plate in the foyer or some such place. We're going to let the deacons organize where exactly that goes, but it'll be obvious where it is and available. You can also ask an usher If you need tithe envelopes, if you're running out of tithe envelopes, we can get you some of those. We're not going to have a printed bulletin, of course. The hymnals, Bibles, tithe envelopes have all been removed from the pews so that we're not touching things that other people have touched. So bring your own Bible, and the words to the songs should be on the screen. We ask you, of course, to minimize your movements around the building once you're seated. Only if you absolutely have to, you could get up and do something. But it's important to sit tight so that we don't get too physically close to one another as the service is going on. Any further questions about these points? Yes, Sister Jane.
Song words will be on the screen. Does that mean we'll be singing?
Yes, we'll talk about that at the end.
Okay.
Okay, speaking of minimizing movements, it's very simple when it comes to children. We just ask that you keep them close and do not allow them to wander. Any questions about that? Okay, because this pertains also to washroom usage. Yes, somebody who's speaking.
So I'm guessing like things like children's story are not happening.
Children's story will happen, but the children will remain seated in the pews for the children's story.
Okay.
Yeah. But there will be no children's offering, for example. Okay, so to continue, there will be 2 sets of washrooms available. The ones next to the office suite on the east side of the building, the main level. And then there will be basement washrooms on the north side of the building under the main entrance. Those will be available as well. You should note that the rest of the basement will not be available for use. To accomplish distancing, we need it to be the case that one person or household uses the I should put washroom there, right? I'm very American. There we go. One person or household uses the washroom at a time. If you need to, if all the washrooms are occupied for some reason and you need to wait, just be sure that you do that 2-meter distancing if you have to line up or so forth. Children younger than 8 must be accompanied by a parent or adult caregiver when using the washroom so that they observe these guidelines. What you need to do when you wash your hands at the end, I hope we're all conscious of this by now, is to use an infection control hand washing procedure. If you're not sure what that is, just look it up. I've linked here in this PowerPoint presentation to a YouTube video that will show you, very simply how it's done. There's other places as well. And again, I'll make this slide deck available to the church shortly. After you exit the washroom, you should sanitize your hands as well, because you likely will have touched things that other people have touched, even though you washed your hands. Okay, any questions on this point here? Pretty simple. All right. Okay, let's talk about singing then. Congregational singing is a high risk of transmission activity. We have seen cases, for example, where choirs have, many people have gotten sick. What we will be asking you to do, of course, you will be wearing your mask anyways because of the new mask bylaw. So just be aware that it's not the time to really, I don't know if you've ever tried singing with a mask on. I tried to lead the congregational singing at a funeral with a mask on. And it was very difficult to sing out strongly. And I would suggest that you simply don't fight it, just hum or sing softly with your mask. And if a mask is on, it really needs to be covering both your nose and your mouth, right? You see a lot of pictures of people wearing the mask down so that their nose is sticking out. Be aware, of course, that your nose is where the virus can be easily transmitted. And also, if you are humming, you are essentially singing through your nose. That's where the air is coming out. So we really need everybody to wear the mask properly, covering both the nose and the mouth. If everyone does that, the chances of transmission in our building go way down. And that's a good thing, not only because it keeps people safe and stops the pandemic, but also it allows us to continue to worship together. Because if we have a transmission incident in our building, I don't think we will be worshiping together after that for a while. Okay, so are there any further questions pertaining to this presentation? Did I cover it off relatively well and with clarity? I hope so. You, of course, oh yeah, thanks guys. You need to know that you can contact the church office between the hours of 10 and 3, Tuesday to Friday. If you have any questions, you can also send the email to our office email account. And this presentation is based on a document that your church board has voted to implement. And if you want to read through all the stacks of guidelines and procedures and policies that are in that document, if you're that kind of person, the type of person who's like me, I'm certainly willing to share that document with you. But otherwise, this briefing should be enough to get you through a church service. So with that, I'm going to stop recording now and thank everybody for their attention.